You know, when we think about creative geniuses, we have this image in our minds, right? These people struck by a bolt of lightning, creating masterpieces out of thin air. But what if I told you the real story is, well, a lot messier and way more interesting? We're gonna dive into Mason Currey's incredible book, Daily Rituals, and see how the greatest minds actually got their work done. This quote from V.S. Pritchett just nails the myth we're all fed. The idea that to be a genius, you have to be this unstoppable productivity machine. You can't waste a single second. And yeah, he's right, it's pretty depressing to think about. It's this superhuman ideal that, as we're about to find out, is mostly just a story we tell ourselves. And if that myth had a poster child, it would be Benjamin Franklin. I mean, just look at the schedule. It is a work of art in itself. Every single minute is planned out for productivity and, get this, moral perfection. He starts his day at 5 a.m. by asking himself, what good shall I do this day? And ends it asking, what good have I done today? This is the gold standard we're all supposed to be aiming for. Or is it? So let's really pull apart this whole idea, this myth of discipline, this belief that creativity needs to be put in a cage to work. To do that, let's put two heavyweights in the ring, coming from completely opposite corners. First, you've got the poet W.H. Auden. For him, routine wasn't just helpful, it was everything. And in the other corner, you have the painter Francis Bacon, a man who believed that inspiration was born out of pure, unfiltered chaos. Auden's life was run with what he called military precision. He was so punctual, it was an obsession. He thought routine was a mark of ambition. But here's the twist. His incredible discipline had a secret weapon, a chemical life, as he put it. He kickstarted his mornings with benzodrine and amphetamine, and then wound down at night with sedatives. So even this perfect picture of order was a lot more complicated than it looked. Okay, so now let's just completely flip the script. If Auden is our model for perfect order, our next guy proves that genius can absolutely explode out of the exact opposite. Just look at this. Seriously, this is not a construction site after an earthquake. This is the London studio of Francis Bacon. There's paint everywhere. The floor is literally knee-deep in books, brushes, junk, you name it. For most of us, this would be impossible to work in. For Bacon, this wasn't a distraction. This was his fuel. And yeah, his lifestyle pretty much matched his studio. Bacon was all about excess. He drank huge amounts of alcohol, ate incredibly rich meals, and would often roll into his studio to paint after a long, wild night out. In fact, get this, he said that being hungover actually helped his work, that it left his mind cracking with energy. He didn't create great art in spite of the chaos, he created it because of the chaos. So you've got discipline on one side, chaos on the other. But in between those two extremes, there is a whole world of weird, wonderful, and totally bizarre rituals that these great minds couldn't live without. Let's look at some of my favorites. All right, first up, Ludwig van Beethoven. He needed his coffee every morning, like many of us. But not just any coffee. Nope. He demanded that each cup be made with exactly 60 coffee beans. And he would often count them out himself, one by one. Talk about specific, right? But that little bit of control was clearly what he needed to start his day. Then there's the novelist Thomas Wolfe. The man was a giant, standing at 6'6", and he could never find a desk that was tall enough for him. So what did he do? He just used the top of his refrigerator as a standing desk. He'd stand there in his kitchen writing for hours. I mean, you gotta love it. It's the ultimate example of just making it work, no matter how weird it looks. And if you thought that was strange, let me introduce you to Patricia Highsmith and her snails. Yes, snails. She found them calming, so calming that she kept around 300 of them as pets. She even took them to parties in her handbag. The best part? When she moved to France, she literally smuggled them across the border under her breasts. Now that is commitment to your personal, very strange source of comfort. So, okay, it's not all about counting coffee beans or writing on a fridge. For a lot of these creative minds, the real battle wasn't finding the perfect routine, it was just finding 5 minutes of peace in a life that was constantly throwing things at them. I mean, listen to Mozart here. We have this image of him just effortlessly composing these timeless symphonies. The reality? He was a freelancer in Vienna, hustling constantly. His life was just a chaotic swirl of teaching piano lessons, going to concerts, and making social calls. He was completely overwhelmed. He had to literally squeeze his real work, his composing, into the tiny cracks of his day. A couple hours here in the morning, and then another session super late at night, sometimes until 1 in the morning. and then he'd get up at 6 and do it all over again. His genius had to survive in the margins of a very demanding life.
And it was the exact same story for Jane Austen. She didn't have a quiet study, no room of one's own. She wrote some of the greatest novels ever written right in the middle of the family sitting room. Think about that. People talking, sewing, visitors popping in at any moment. That was her office.
So how on earth did she manage it? Well, her nephew tells us she had this brilliant little hack. She wrote on tiny little sheets of paper. Why? So that if a visitor walked in, she could quickly cover it up with a piece of blotting paper and pretend she was just writing a letter. She didn't want anyone to know about her writing. It's just an incredible story of focus and creating masterpieces in secret.
So what are we supposed to do with all this? We've got the hyper-disciplined, the gloriously messy, the bizarrely ritualistic, and the constantly interrupted. What is the one takeaway from all these conflicting stories?
Well, the big idea, the central theme of Currey's whole book is this one word: variation. There is no magic formula. There's no one correct way to be creative. The point isn't to copy Ben Franklin's schedule or Francis Bacon's chaos. It's to realize that the only right way is whatever way actually works for you. And you know, Franz Kafka, a guy who knew a thing or two about struggle, just asked the most perfect question. Life isn't straightforward. It's messy and weird and full of things we can't control. And that was true for all of these geniuses, and it's definitely true for us. So what's the final piece of advice? What's the secret? Well, in a letter, Kafka said that when a straightforward life is impossible, one must try to wriggle through by subtle maneuvers. And Currey ends his book with the most perfect, most honest 2 words of advice you will ever hear. It's not about being perfect. It's not about having some ironclad routine. It's just this: wriggle through.